morning. This is my name is Billy Brown, and we're going to do a knife making tutorial this morning. And we're going to discuss some steel, types of steel you can use for knife making. We're going to go over some basics about some tools before we get started. Cover safety real briefly. You need to wear safety glasses. I probably won't be wearing any, but you know, it's up to you. I choose not to wear anything. But if you do wear safety equipment, you're going to have one of these, especially when you're grinding, because that shard of metal will take an eye out. This morning, a little bit, when we get done with discussing tools and the things, we're going to forge a knife out of a coil spring. Steel, I mean, let's cover steel a little bit briefly. Steel is fairly cheap. You can buy it. I like to use recycled steel, but I have bought steel in the past. And if you want to go stainless, that's fine too. It's got a little more intricate heat treating. We'll cover the heat treating a little bit. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover some basic tools. One of the most important tools you're going to use is a basic file. You can do a lot with a file, more than you think. This is it's an old tool, centuries old, and don't be scared to modify it to fit. You can make a smooth side where it won't mar up your steel. And just to give you an example, you can really cut with a file pretty quick. You can even grind your bevels with a file if you want to do that. But you're going to have to get a way to grind. Come on in for a minute. I'm going to cover a basic machine here. We'll get into that a little deeper later on in another video, but this is a Grizzly. I've been using it for 20-something years. The only thing I've ever done is I had to replace this button, which was $2. You can actually get a bigger wheel here to poly grind with. This is basically for flat grinding. You know. We'll go over some belts in a little bit. Okay. That's your grinding platen right here. That's flat grinding. And you can track the belt one side or the other. We're going to pour that later on. Okay. Let me show you my grinder. This grinder's homemade. It's been running about 23 years. I've replaced the motor once, which I keep covered to keep dust out of it. We're going to replacement motors in a little while, where I got the motor from. But basically, this carries a 72-inch belt. Put it on just like that. This is what we're going to be using this belt in a little bit to grind the knife. It's got a 5-horse motor, and there's a drive pulley here. This is homemade, and you can get on YouTube and find out how to make grinders. It's pretty simple and pretty cheap. You can gather the stuff together. Anyway, this machine will hurt you, but you got to be careful. It's basically pillow block bearings. It's got one back here for the idler pulley. This is a Hoss right here. This is a Hercules here. We can grind a knife in about 10 minutes on this thing. Have it completely ground and ready for the next step. Okay, let's cover some of these steel types. Some of your simple steels, 5160, 1095, 1084, to name just a few. That's one of my favorites. My personal favorite is spring steel. It takes and hold, all that carbon steel will take and hold an edge fairly well. And we'll get into more of that a little bit later on, some more videos later on. But today we're going to concentrate on forging out a knife out of a coil spring, which is 5160. And sometimes it might be a different type of steel, but it's still pretty good steel. We'll just go ahead and cut this out. Let me grab my face sheet here, or face mask. Alright, we're going to cut this piece off. We're going to cut a piece of this out. Oh, I'm unplugged. Remember to plug it up. Remember to plug this up. My shop's pretty cluttered, so as you can see. Did it finally drop? There it went. Alright, I'm using gas. You can use coal. You can build a coal forge fairly easy. You can actually build a gas forge fairly easy. But we're going to use gas today. Let's talk about some of your annealing and normalizing, thermal cycling. When you, if you're using recycled steel, you're going to have to anneal it, which simply means heating it to critical temperature. Critical temperature means about 1800 and 2000 range, but you check it with a magnet. When that steel stops sticking, that's critical temperature. And that's when you can let it slowly cool, either in some ashes or sand. Kitty litter works, believe it or not. Or you can leave it in the forge and just slowly let it cool. That's called annealing. That takes all the hardness out of the metal. That's necessary, and it actually does the steel a lot of good. After you forge the blade, you're going to do what they call a thermal cycle. You're going to heat it up 3 different times to non-magnetic. Check it each time and then let it air cool all the way where you can touch it. That's called a thermal cycle and normalizing. That's kind of rolled into one there. And you can re-anneal it if you want. I don't bother with it, but if you want to go, the metallurgy I'm going to be talking about is pretty simple. It basically involves just in the parameters of knife making. You can go as deep as you want. You can go as textbook as you want. Metallurgy goes deep if you want to go that route. I mean, I just know basically what I need to make a knife. That's what I go by. We're going to go ahead and light this forge up. And it's probably going to sound like a jet engine, but that's going to take a little bit to warm up.